Oh, so you have tight hamstrings. Telling you to touch your hands to the floor or to touch your toes seems like insanity because you haven't even felt your knees in ages from being so absurdly tight in your posterior chain. Don't worry about it. There's nothing to be ashamed of because today I'm gonna show you how to get step by step all the way down here with easy to replicate exercises you can use at any given level. So if you're ready, let's go have some fun. First things first, let's take care of one of the biggest issues people don't work on and that lead to a lot of tightness in their posterior chain, which is their lack of ability to switch between an anterior and a posterior pelvic tilt. And you will notice how important this is with the upcoming exercises. All we want to do is learn how to switch into a lumbar spinal flexion and back into lumbar spinal extension. A very short, very controlled, and very low impact movement. Just all the way as rounded as you can, and then all the way as extended as you can. If your range of motion is shorter, don't worry about it. Over time, this will get better, especially once you develop all the necessary control in your anterior and posterior chain musculature that are responsible for pelvic tilt, including your hip flexors and your spinal erectors. And this will help you immensely with all the upcoming exercises. Now, having mobilized our spine, we can finally start loosening up our posterior chain first. And our last exercise will already come into play here. Depending on your range of motion, you might be down here or you might be all the way up here. And before we even move anything, we will just start to bring our back into the same extension we did before. And now we can start loosening up our posterior chain in our hamstrings all the way down to our Achilles by switching from here to here. A very controlled, low impact movement once more, and we're just trying to loosen up the tiniest bit. The more you fall into spinal flexion, the less pull you will have on your muscles here. So try and stay in this position, and this will help you advance even faster with almost all of the exercises we're doing today, especially once you start learning how to get it into full extension during all of those movements. This video is sponsored by YouTube's most important person, which is you, my dear viewer. By liking this video, subscribing to the channel and watching the whole thing to the end, you give me the ability to buy a second heating mat for my cats because they really enjoy them. Look at how cute. Look, come on, tell me this isn't one of the cutest things you've ever seen. We can move to what is probably the most effective technique you will ever learn when it comes to flexibility. If you can master this, you'll probably be able to cut almost all of your stretching routines in half. And it's all about relaxation and reciprocal inhibition. Relaxing a muscle is very beneficial when it comes to stretching. In this case, we want to work on our biceps, on our gastrog, our soleus, and move from our Achilles all the way up to our glutes. And to relax those muscles, we need to start flexing their antagonists. We will flex our hip flexors, which is going to start elevating our leg. We will flex our quads, which is going to extend our leg. And we will flex our tibialis, pulling in our foot, and from here start flexing your spinal erectors to push your back into this extended position. What this also will do is relax all the antagonists of the muscles you are flexing at this moment. We need this to, once again, fold forward before we elevate again, hold for a handful of seconds, and then fold forward again. The combination of total flexion on one side and total relaxation on the other side will make your progress so much faster, but more importantly, it will make it safer because now you're not pulling on a muscle that is contracted. You are actively relaxing the muscle by, once again, flexing the antagonist. Trust me, if you can get this down for all of your stretching exercises, you will have such an easy time advancing and you will become much more flexible, much faster. So your next two exercises will look something like this. Extend your back as much as you can. Elevate one leg, hold it for a handful of seconds, reverse and repeat. Even if you do not feel a stretch in your posterior chain now, the first set is all about activation first. 10 to 12 repetitions, and then with the second set, we will start elevating, holding for a handful of seconds, and once we release, we're gonna fold forward as much as we can with a straight back. If your range of motion ends here, don't worry about it, that's absolutely fine. Over time, you will get better. Elevate, hold for a handful of seconds, reverse, hold for a handful of seconds, elevate, hold, repeat on the other side. Moving us to our very first standing exercise, which will be hip hinges, folding forward with an extended back and extended legs. Now we can use everything we've learned with the past couple of exercises, move into spinal extension, or at the very least a neutral position with your lumbar spine. And then we are going to not just fold forward haphazardly, no. We want to start flexing our hip flexors and our quads as much as we can. Flex our core, and that will actively pull us down, actively relax all the muscles in our posterior chain, which is going to help us get even deeper into that stretch. Hold the lowest point just for a second and reverse. Once again, don't forget there is a lot of tension and a lot of strength going on here, which means that we are using our muscular control to our benefit and using our strength to our benefit as well. Hold the lowest point for a second or two and reverse. Hold the lowest point for a second or two and reverse. Now, if you've been paying attention to what your body feels during those movements, you will have noticed that most of the stretch we're getting starts at our glutes and moves down towards our knees. While we are having the tiniest bit of flexibility here, we are not yet maximizing what we're getting. All we need to do is just elevate our toes, and it's best to do this on one side separately before we move on to the other leg. Hinge in your hip and start moving forward. Now combining a massive stretch in our gastrog and soleus, moving down all the way towards our Achilles with the same amount of stretch we used to get in our biceps in the last exercise. Move into spinal extension or a neutral position, hinge forward, hold the deepest part for a second or two and reverse. Once again, we are actively flexing our anterior chain to pull us down. We are not using gravity, we're using all the strength we have built in our anterior chain. And with the very last repetition of each one of those standing hip hinges, we will then actually just fold forward as far as we can and relax our back, relax our upper body, and start holding this relaxed position for 20 to 30 seconds. To take some of that pressure off of our back, we're gonna do one of my favorite exercises. Lucky for you, from this exercise we have multiple different variations you can choose from, whichever one you really enjoy. We're gonna start in a deep squat or a resting squat position. Grab our toes, and all we need to do is start extending our legs and raise our hips as far as we can. Keep your back fully relaxed. If your movement ends here, absolutely amazing. If your movement ends all the way up here, also absolutely amazing. Go through 12 to 14 repetitions of very relaxed extensions. Hold the top of your stretch for a second or two and reverse. If you're more flexible, have a little bit more strength, or are a little bit more advanced, and this exercise will blow you away. We will keep our legs completely closed, bend them, and now we're gonna hold both of our legs as tightly as we can, get our upper body into full contact with our legs. Take a deep breath in, and when breathing out, you want to extend your legs as far as you can. Start relaxing your back as well. And once you are far enough into the extension that your knees are fully extended, you will start raising your heels and pull those toes closer towards your head, adding even more stretch in your lower leg musculature. Hold for a second or two, reverse, take a deep breath in, and always move into the extension when breathing out, because that is also going to help you relax the muscles we need to stretch. We are flexing our anterior chain, moving throughout our quads all the way down through our tibialis towards our feet, holding for a handful of seconds and releasing. That also means that now you have a progression once you are too advanced to feel a stretch. From the deep squat to pike position, you will move to the seated one, extend and hold for a handful of seconds, and so forth. If you are like me and you enjoy faster results and enjoy combining strength with the flexibility work you're doing, I have two more exercises for you that are gonna take this to a whole new level. You will, however, need some sort of elevation the more you advance, and you will need a weight, a light weight in the very beginning, at least until you get used to those movements. We're going to move into our deep squat with the weight at the very front, already pulling us down into somewhat of spinal flexion, rounding our back. This is going to help us stretch our back musculature, already starting at our lumbar spine, moving all the way throughout our thoracic spine, opening up our traps and shoulders as well. Deep squat with extension in our legs, moving into a forward fold or a pike position, holding and reversing. The only difference between the one we did on the floor without resistance and this one is that the resistance is pulling us deeper into a stretch, like so. And when we reverse, it's also pulling us deeper into a stretch with our upper body. Our second exercise in this category being probably one of the best exercises you can do for your longevity and spinal health, and that is the Jefferson curl. Once again, with a light weight if you're a total beginner, or if you're doing this for the first time, and now you will actively start rounding your back at the very top already. We want to move down vertebrae by vertebrae, going into complete spinal flexion, keeping our legs extended, and then letting the weight pull us as deeply into a stretch as possible. Hold for a second or two, and now comes the very important part. You will, once again, vertebrae by vertebrae, move up with a rounded back all the way through a complete range of motion until you're standing fully upright. This exercise is not just amazing for posterior chain flexibility, but it's also very amazing for posterior chain strength. And what is more important, this exercise is all about teaching your body how to reverse safely out of compromised positions, which are usually positions where our back is very rounded, even though we have a lot of resistance. Once again, you can hold the deepest position in a stretch for up to 30 seconds even if you want to. When it comes to programming, you will go through each one of those exercises for 2, maximum 3 sets, 10 to 12 repetitions. For the dynamic ones, hold the deepest position of the stretch for 2 to 3 seconds. And if you feel like adding any of those exercises as a static stretch, best practice, hold for 30 seconds, take a short break, and then repeat for a second time. As for breaks between exercises, a minute to a maximum of 90 seconds, because we don't want to fully cool down before you move into the next one. And if you can do this whole thing 3 times a week, that is absolutely amazing. You will be very surprised at how fast you can progress, and I will probably see you very soon. So until then, have a good one. Captain Cairo. Peace out.